lived a girl named Abigail. She was born into a household where only effort defined your worth. Her parents allowed her to play only after she completed all her assigned tasks. Over time, she became excessively responsible, and these childhood habits followed her into adulthood. She eventually began working on a technology that everyone else considered too complex and dangerous NICMA technology. It was not just a rumor, but a scientifically proven fact that extended exposure to NICMA-based systems could cause substantial and irreversible damage to human vision. Despite this, massive tech conglomerates were desperate to find someone willing to work with it. NICMA technology was the most advanced and powerful computational framework ever developed, capable of manipulating quantum-level data in real time, interfacing with dark energy, and powering interstellar systems. These corporations began aggressively advertising high-paying vacancies, falsely claiming that NICMA had passed all safety certifications. In truth, it hadn't. The technology was still volatile, unrefined, and neuro-optically hazardous. Abigail, despite the warnings and the known risks, accepted the job with unwavering confidence. Almost all of her friends tried to dissuade her, pleading with her to reconsider, but she wouldn't listen. She began working with the NICMA technology. Soon, the job started to drain her physically, mentally, and emotionally. Abigail began feeling constantly exhausted and burned out. Day by day, she suffered from persistent, worsening headaches. Even after taking painkillers, the fatigue never left her. The working hours were long and relentless. One night, while she was focused on a data stream pulsing across the screen, a sharp headache struck her again, more intense than usual. She rested her head on the desk and, without realizing it, fell asleep. In the morning, she woke up feeling strangely lighter, as though some of the weight had lifted. She looked out the window and noticed a familiar, odd-looking old woman standing outside. Before she could make sense of it, a strange mechanical noise came from her desk. She turned her head quickly, but everything looked normal. The monitors were untouched, and nothing seemed out of place. When she looked back down at the window, the old woman was gone. She went to get coffee from the automated dispenser, but the machine failed to pour anything into her cup. Frustrated, she gave it a slight hit. It was unnaturally cold, almost frozen, which was especially bizarre since the unit was brand new, installed by her company just for her. Still holding the empty cup, she returned to her desk. Suddenly, she saw the same elderly woman standing at the door. Abigail gasped. Startled, but in the blink of an eye, the woman vanished. Confused and uneasy, Abigail tried to brush off the moment and returned to work. Then she felt something or someone behind her. She turned swiftly. No one was there. Ignoring the creeping chill in her spine, she went back to the interface. Suddenly, the face of the elderly woman appeared right above the screen. Startled, Abigail fell to the floor. The face whooshed away into nothingness. Her heart pounded violently with fear. Trying to keep calm, she walked to the door and stepped inside the elevator. After a short descent, the elevator stopped abruptly. Her eyes widened in panic. She pressed the emergency controls, tried to force the doors open, but they wouldn't budge. Then, a hand appeared from the shadows and opened the elevator doors. She stepped outside and saw the elderly woman smiling at her. Startled at first, Abigail then realized that this was her long-deceased grandmother. She had passed away when Abigail was only 9, and she had loved her deeply. Before Abigail could react further, the old woman faded away like mist dissolving into air. Shaken, Abigail returned to her desk, trying to comprehend what had just occurred. How could she have seen her long-dead grandmother? Her thoughts were frozen, her logic suspended. She couldn't feel anything, no fear, no sadness, except one lingering sensation, a slight, growing curiosity. She sat down on the nearby sofa. To her astonishment, the elderly woman appeared once again and calmly sat beside her. Even though she recognized her as her grandmother, Abigail couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. With a trembling voice, she asked, "How is it possible that I can see you?" Her grandmother smiled gently and replied, "Because I love you." Then she vanished again. Abigail remained awake all night, her mind blank, stunned by the impossible. Never had she imagined such things could happen. As the night wore on, exhaustion took hold, and she eventually drifted off. Suddenly, she awoke, eyes snapping open, to see a dark figure standing nearby. She gasped, her body tensed, ready to flee. But in an instant, the figure was gone. A chilling realization settled in her chest. It wasn't just her grandmother that she was seeing. There was something else with her. She rushed to the door and opened it, only to find a hallway filled with unfamiliar, eerie figures, all staring directly at her. Their faces were strange, unsettling, almost hollow. Startled and afraid, she slammed the door shut. What is happening? She thought, her breath quickening. Why is this happening to me? Then she remembered Nikema technology was rumored to emit a form of exotic radiation, non-visible, quantum-altered rays that could cause permanent damage to human vision over time. Her friends had warned her. But what if it didn't just damage vision? What if it altered it? What if the radiation shifted her perception, allowing her to see what no normal human could? The dead? She turned toward her workstation. The screen was flickering, nothing but static. Then suddenly, the tall dark figure appeared again. Terrified, she bolted, running until she hit the wall. But the figure didn't move. It remained still, unmoving, unfazed by her panic. She attempted to reach the exit door, but it was gone, vanished from its usual place beside the desk, only to reappear again, now directly behind the figure, as though it were guarding her only way out. She froze against the wall. The figure radiated a chilling aura. The space around it seemed dimmed, its presence absorbing the very light, turning the air around it heavy and dark. Then it vanished. She exhaled in relief, trembling, but the sense of dread remained. She knew it would return. Desperate, she rushed to the door again, tried to force it open, but it was sealed shut. That's when the realization hit her. The only way to end this was to destroy the portable Nikema supercomputer that sat quietly on her desk. She frantically looked for something, anything to smash it with, but found nothing sturdy enough. Then her eyes landed on her water bottle. She grabbed it. Just as she raised it to strike the device, the tall dark figure reappeared. This time she saw it clearly, an entity made of shadow, with streams of darkness cascading from its outstretched hands, its entire form distorting the very atmosphere around it. She tried to bring the bottle down, but her hand froze, paralyzed mid-swing. The figure began gliding toward her, not walking, but sliding unnaturally smooth. As it moved, the floor beneath it dulled and faded, as if its presence was erasing reality itself. Her terror peaked. The bottle slipped from her fingers and hit the floor. The figure vanished again. Panting, she understood, it doesn't want me to escape. It doesn't want me to destroy the machine. But she refused to give up. Gathering every ounce of courage, she reached down, yanked out the power cable. then grabbed the bottle again. With a shout, she brought it down, smashing the supercomputer violently. She sat down on the floor, her breath shaking, and whispered to herself, "Finally, free. It can't do anything now." Slowly, she got up and moved toward the door. With a hesitant hand, she turned the handle and opened it. But instead of the hallway, instead of anything familiar, there was only darkness. Endless, consuming black. There was no floor, no ceiling, no elevator, no walls, just a void. An infinite absence. Nothingness. She couldn't even see where the light ended because there was no light at all. Just an overwhelming, oppressive darkness that seemed to pulse forward as if it were alive. Terrified, she slammed the door shut and sat back down on the floor, her back against it. Her heart pounded. Her body trembled. "What is this?" she thought. "Why hasn't it gone away? I destroyed that Nikema device. I smashed the core system. It should be over. Everything should be back to normal." But it wasn't. Is it irreversible? Or was the cause never just the Nikema technology? Was this happening because of something else entirely? Her mind spun. She thought back to the one moment that had truly broken the boundary between what was real and what wasn't. The moment she saw her grandmother. When she'd asked, "How is it possible that I can see you?" And the answer, "Because I love you." That one answer now echoed painfully in her mind. Then why? She thought, why am I seeing all of these things that terrify me? Paralyze me with fear. If love brought her to me, what brought these things? Logic failed her. In desperation, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, her grandmother was still out there, in whatever space this had become. Maybe she could explain what was really happening. Maybe she held the key to undoing all of this. Her voice cracked as she began calling out like she used to when she was little. "Grandmama, Grandmama, where are you? Please. Why am I seeing all these terrifying things?" Her plea trembled into the silence. But there was no reply. Only the thick, suffocating quiet of the void. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she sobbed, burying her face in her arms. Her thoughts unraveling, lost in pain and confusion. Then suddenly she felt it. A shift. She lifted her head, eyes red and swollen, and there it was again. The dark figure. It stood silently, unmoving, and then everything else vanished. The room, the door, the broken remains of the Nikema supercomputer all gone. There was nothing left. No space. No time. Only her and the figure. Alone, suspended in the darkness. She sobbed in desperation, her voice rising into a scream. "Why are you doing all this? Huh? I've never hurt anyone." Then, from the endless void, she heard a voice. It was rough and thunderous, almost frightening, yet somehow laced with something soft, something sorrowful. "I know," it said, "and I didn't mean to. Everything just becomes nothing around me." She looked at him, eyes full of curiosity and desperation. "What do you mean? How is this possible?" He hesitated, his form shifting slightly in the void. He stopped, unable to complete the sentence. She stared at him, now not just desperate, but angry. "I'm what? Why don't you leave me alone?" He lifted his head slowly. "That won't fix anything." She stood, her voice rising again. "Why won't it fix anything?" His form seemed to falter for a brief moment, stunned by her presence, her fire. Then he replied, his voice low, "Because nothing exists here." She stepped forward, furious, and grabbed his arm. It was cold, like ice. "Then tell me, where am I?" she shouted. There was a long pause. He looked at her, seemingly shaken, then finally answered, his voice low but firm. "The void." Her hands fell away from him. She stumbled back and collapsed to the floor, the words hitting her harder than she'd expected. "What does that mean?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. He bent slightly, his face shadowed. "It means you don't have to worry about anything anymore." She stared at him in disbelief. "What? I don't understand." She paused, then a horrifying realization crept in. "Does that mean I—" She couldn't finish the sentence. He looked at her sadly. "Yes, and I am void, or nothingness itself." She raised her head slowly. "How? There was my desk. I was just there when, why—" He paused again. His voice, though still eerie, was filled with compassion. "You died from a brain hemorrhage. That night you fell asleep at your desk. Everything you saw after that was your own unrelenting will to let go." She sat silently in shock, staring into the distance. Then finally, in a soft voice, she asked, "My grandmother?" "Yes, she was real," he replied. "She could meet you here because of the strength of your bond." "Then why didn't she answer when I called her?" she asked. "Because she couldn't tell you the truth," he said gently. They both fell silent. The void sat down beside her, still, quiet. After some time, it vanished again, leaving her alone in the blackness. It returned to its throne of shadow, but then it remembered the sound of her cry, the echo of her voice. It couldn't resist. It returned to her. And there she was again, in the room, sitting beside her desk as if it had never left. She noticed him. Her expression was calm now, a little sad, a little brave. "I thought about it, and it returned," she said. "You were right, it's my desire. But the moment I remember your words, it fades away." He stepped closer. "Let me show you something beautiful," he said. In a blink, she found herself standing in front of a black hole, enormous and awe-inspiring. Around it was a vast emptiness, space stretched to infinity. Stars blinked far in the distance like whispers of forgotten time. She gasped in wonder. "It's a real black hole?" "Yes," he replied. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Can you take me to visit all of space?" He nodded. "Yes, where would you like to go first?" She paused, thinking for a second, her eyes reflecting starlight. "To the edge of the universe," she said. In a blink, she stood at the edge of the universe. Stretched before her was the unimaginable, a borderless expanse where reality thinned and stars faded into the silence of creation's final breath. Time felt distant, space even more so. She turned to him, eyes wide in awe. "How can you do all this?" He looked out into the cosmic abyss, then answered, his voice steady but vast. "I'm void. I can exist in uncountable places simultaneously. But my main form is here with you right now. I can go anywhere in space I choose." She gazed at him, the stars reflecting in her eyes. Curiosity burned within her. "Why did you prevent me from smashing that supercomputer? And why did you lock that door?" His expression changed to somber, almost weighed down by the memory. His voice, though still mighty, grew quieter. "I didn't want you to know that you were dead," he said slowly. "And that door, I locked it because the dead were getting attracted to it. It was the only tangible thing left in the void. Things like that, they pull the dead in." He paused, voice thick with meaning. I was trying to protect you from them. I wanted you to stay safe in your room." Abigail's eyes filled with sorrow. Then, a gentle realization softened her expression. "So, you were trying to save me." He nodded faintly, the glow of distant galaxies casting long shadows across his form. "I wonder," she whispered, "do you meet everyone who dies?" "Yes," the void said. His voice, as always, thundered with cosmic weight, but this time it was soft, almost reverent. Abigail turned toward him, searching his face. "Do you try to save all of them?" Boyd hesitated. A flicker of something like guilt or perhaps inevitability passed through his stance. Yet he stood firm. "No," he said. "Sooner or later, everyone must know the truth." Before Abigail could ask another question, Void suddenly interrupted. "I have something important to do." In an instant, she was teleported back into the void, the place where she had once created her desk, her temporary refuge. But now, it no longer existed. The space was empty and he was gone. The vast silence swallowed her. Despite occasionally seeing her grandmother in fleeting moments, she felt deeply, unmistakably alone. Yet Void kept returning. Time passed strangely. Sometimes he would appear and take her across the universe, places so far and strange they seemed born from dreams. Most of them were wrapped in the void, but even there, beauty glowed, faraway galaxies suspended in silence, nebulas blooming like cosmic flowers, or a distant exoplanet surrounded by stardust and ancient light. It was during one of these travels, while they stood together on a strange, luminous exoplanet with shifting terrain and twin moons, that she finally asked him something she had long held back. "You've never shown me your face," she said softly. "It's always hidden beneath your hood." Void stiffened as though the question reached somewhere deep. His voice, when it came, was quieter than usual, less like thunder, more like the whisper of a dying star. "Because I don't have a face," he said. "I'm void. I'm nothingness." And then, without warning, he teleported her back to the empty space of the blank, infinite void, and vanished once more. She stood there, the silence louder than anything else she had ever known. Loneliness wrapped around her like a vacuum. But after a while, as though he had felt her sorrow across the endless dimensions, Void returned. He approached gently and spoke with purpose. "I've spoken to the universe," he said. "She will allow you to live another life, on a different, advanced planet. A place where humans and alien species coexist. One of the most peaceful and joyful planets in existence." He looked into her eyes. "And most importantly, it's a place where your worth is not measured by your work." She smiled genuinely. But then, a sudden melancholy dimmed her expression. Void saw it immediately. "Why are you melancholic?" he asked gently. She looked at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Will you be able to come meet me there?" He looked at her, the stars reflected in the nothingness of his hooded gaze. "Yes," he said softly. And for a moment, even the void felt warm. She smiled widely, eyes gleaming with the light of distant stars. "Then you must come daily," she said, "or I'll miss you." Void froze for a moment, genuinely surprised by her words. No one had ever said such a thing to him before. He replied softly, with something rare in his voice, certainty. "Certainly I will." Soon after, the gift of another life was bestowed upon her. A rebirth on a distant, peaceful planet where harmony reigned, where humans and alien beings lived side by side, and worth was not measured in labor, but in existence. While she began her new life somewhere far beyond all galaxies, Void approached the universe. She sat upon her radiant throne, woven from stardust and time itself, ancient and eternal. "Ah," she said with a wry smile as he approached. "Finally, you found time to meet me." Void didn't respond to her tone. His voice was firm, resolute. "This time," he said, "make sure she lives a peaceful life. Give her all the happiness she deserves." The universe raised a cosmic brow, her presence shimmering with both humor and gravity. "I can't guarantee that," she replied. "That poor girl, she won't even remember you. And you know the rules, you can never visit the world of the living." Void stood silent, his form darker than any shadow cast by space itself. "No," he said at last, "she mustn't remember. I want her to live the normal life she never had, the one she deserves." The universe leaned back, resting her chin thoughtfully on one hand. "Oh, infinity," she mused. "He would be so touched by this. A girl who softened even you, the Void." Then her tone grew unexpectedly tender. "But are you sure?" she asked. "If you'd given her a choice, do you think she would have chosen peace? Or you?" She exhaled, stardust trailing from her lips. "Oh, Void, you're making me emotional. A selfless love like that." She paused, then said gently, "She won't remember you. But you, how will you bear the emptiness?" Void looked away, shadows curling around him like smoke. His voice, when it came, held a sorrow deeper than time. "Life is impossible with me. She deserves someone who is alive enough to love her." And then, slowly, he lifted his hands. For the first time since time began, he pulled back his hood. His face became visible. Not terrifying, not monstrous, just empty. A face like a dying star, vast, hollow, and full of longing. A being who had held all of nothing and had learned, too late, what it meant to care. The universe watched him in silence. Even she, eternal and omnipotent, said nothing. For a moment, across infinity, not a single star dared to flicker.